Welcome back, everybody. This is Eric here with Iraq Veteran 8888. Today, we've got another top 5 guns video for you. This one is going to be a lot of fun. This is the top 5 farmer guns, okay? And what better person to have as a guest with me than Mr. Will Beatty, Bear Creek Cattle Company. He is, in fact, a farmer, and he grows some of the most awesome beef you will ever put in your mouth. All right, so if you're looking for steaks, this is your man. And I thought it would be fun. We had him down here making some videos with us for him to pick out his top 5 farmer picks.
Well, I know the theme of top 5. You know, I am very much a freedom-loving gun enthusiast. So it would always be difficult to narrow that interest down to 5. But I think we came to a conclusion that, you know, I can agree these would be the 5 if I had to pick only 5. Not only to protect the family, but to utilize on the farm.
So some of your picks, they sort of didn't surprise me, and some of them I was maybe a little surprised. So we're going to dive into this, and there's really no particular order on this, and there's no rhyme or reason. So feel free to pick anything up and just sort of stab at it, and let's go through your choices here.
Sure. Well, first thing I would pick would be obviously an AR-15 platform. My caliber of choice would be 300 Blackout. And I'll tell you a little bit about my thought process. I would go with the pistol version because it gives you a lot of flexibility. So as I was going through the different guns, I wanted to think not only how would I utilize them on a farm, but also, you know, farmers are real people too. And we travel and we do real things and regular things in life. And I wanted to have some flexibility with the 5 that I picked. So with the 300 Blackout, the thing that makes it important to me, now for me personally, I would choose a shorter barrel length, probably a 9-inch, because 300 Blackout does very well at a shorter length. It's not quite reliant on the velocity. And I've used it in real life. I'm an outdoorsman, a sportsman. I've taken 2 really nice bucks with 300 Blackout using the Barnes 110 TSX. And folks, the round was very devastating. I was surprised.
Out of a 9-inch?
Out of a 9-inch barrel. Yep, I happen to have a BCM SBR, and I'm running a rugged suppressor Surge 762 on the end. Now, how I became familiar with the 300 Blackout and trying to utilize it for sporting purposes is I have a young child at home, and I wanted to give them the opportunity to go out and hunt with me. The 300 Blackout allows sufficient terminal ballistics and velocity and foot-pounds of energy to take white-tailed deer, but without all the recoil. And the ability that 300 Blackout suppresses so well also takes away a lot of the fear factor when you're starting new and young shooters, because, you know, not only there's typically 2 things that new shooters and young shooters are hesitant of. 1, they're either recoil sensitive, or 2, the blast scares them.
Yeah, the noise.
The noise. So the 300 Blackout gives a lot of flexibility. We talked about the sporting use of it. The other thing that is a real factor is it's an excellent home defense choice. And it doesn't matter gender. And there again, when you're able to shoulder and fire this as a younger person, or let's say a smaller statured person, it doesn't have that, you know, real recoil that's gonna, you know, 1, intimidate them, and 2, in actual use, take their point of aim off target so they can have quick follow-up shots. And the thing is, over a pistol, it has devastating in ballistics. So it's a man stopper. So that's why I picked the 300 Blackout. There's also a lot of flexibility in the AR, but we all know that and don't have to go down that rabbit hole.
Oh gosh, what a great choice.
And you know, and it's great for predator control as well. You know, I've got, you know, multiple farms. We try to keep the coyote population in check. You know, and the thing about the 300, again, it suppresses well. And if I have to take a shot and it's midnight, although we do have larger farms, we still have neighbors within hearing shot, and it makes a big difference. A suppressed firearm going off at midnight versus non-suppressed.
That's right. So 2-legged game, 4-legged game, and everything in between. But we also have some items on the table that would be good for the type of game that has no legs and no shoulders. That would be snakes. So let's go to the next thing down the line.
That's what I'm gonna pick.
Okay,
Call this our snake charmer.
Yeah, so this is a 410 Shockwave. So it's basically the 14-inch Shockwave, but with the SB brace. And this is a cool shotgun because, as far as I know, I don't think Remington...
Firearm.
Yeah, is a firearm. I don't think Remington makes a TAC 14 and 410. So this is cool to have a pump 410 that's nice and compact. And lay out some of your thinking for a 410 gun. Like you're thinking like a walking gun, four-wheeler gun.
Well, you know, multiple things, okay? For one, getting back to those coyotes. So this is a very lightweight and very capable shotgun. And 410, you know, you've got the flexibility of different loads. You've got birdshot, great for snakes. You've got buckshot or slugs. Me personally, I use buckshot, and at close range, if you happen to trap a coyote and need to have an ethical kill, then you know this is certainly great to have on hand, and it's compact. And it, you know, a lot of it is the weight too. You know, you can throw it in the Polaris Ranger when you're riding around. Having, you know, it's just like for self-defense. Having a firearm on you is the best choice. You know, it's not necessarily what kind of firearm is the best one to have. It's the one you have with you. The cool thing that I liked about this one, and the reason I selected this, being a firearm, it gave the flexibility of the short barrel without the NFA paperwork and the wait time. So you literally can go in the gun store, do your 4473, walk out that day. You can add the addition of the brace on the background, which is going to give you some stability and allow you to make accurate shots even at distance. And, you know, the 410, there again, it gives the flexibility in a family environment. So you can have a younger shooter, you know, that can shoulder this, whereas I may not put them on a 12 gauge and scare them to death or have heavy recoil, or a lady or smaller statured man in the family. Man, this thing is just fun to go out and shoot, but it's very capable as well.
I think that there's also a little bit of reduced collateral damage as well. Let's say that maybe you're not necessarily in a super rural area. Maybe it's a little bit more urban of an environment, like kind of in between. And let's say that, I don't know, there's a coyote or pest animal or a snake or something you've got to shoot at. You know, a round of birdshot or buckshot coming out of this thing, once it hits the ground, it's going to lose so much energy. You don't have to worry about something skipping off and hitting someone's car, house, or getting near a road. I mean, this is a great gun that for something close range, very little recoil. And what I like about it is that, I mean, you could literally have your hand on the wheel and literally, you can shoot this thing from the shoulder with one hand and not, you know what I mean? It's not a big deal. You can just go, oh, a snake, pow, shoot it, and off you go.
Absolutely.
Yep. So it's handy. And I do like the short, compact nature of this. It's great for the house. We were actually out doing a video on this gun yesterday, in fact, and we had some of the PDX Winchester ammo, I believe it was, and it uses that 41 caliber projectile with like the 2 round balls in there. And it was really accurate at like 25, 30 yards.
Wow.
And it would be really great for the house as like a good little home defense gun for people that are recoil shy.
Absolutely.
So let's move down the line. Number 3.
Yep. Okay. I've got to pick, and I specifically requested the old Wingmaster 870 by Remington, and I grew up on this shotgun. So that probably there's some, you know, history of it with me, and I can't tell you the number of doves, ducks, and deer I shot with just an old Remington 870. The reason I chose it even for today, if I could only pick 5, one, it's known for reliability. Remington has an extreme history of having quality, especially back in the the golden days before some of the modern pieces were reinvented. But the old Wingmasters are extremely reliable. You can still pick them up on the used market, probably less expensive than you can buy some of the modern Remingtons off the shelf today. So
they're smooth as butter too. The action.
The action is extremely smooth. You've got the flexibility. You know, the very old Wingmasters had fixed chokes and you had to swap out the barrels, but the barrels are still readily available, you know, through Gunbroker and other sources. You've got a whole array of shot shell choices, from buckshot, birdshot. There again, you can go with slugs. You can mount a scope and use a slug gun to take deer if you don't want to use buckshot, and it'll extend your range. But, you know, I really think it boils down to three things. One, my heart and history. Two, reliability and flexibility. And in 12 gauge, you just couldn't beat it.
All right, so I'll add a couple of things to this. Now, this is one area where maybe I would choose something different. Now, this is top 5 farmers guns. Will's the farmer. This is dealer's choice here, okay? There are a few things to be said about a gun like this. One is, let's just say you are involved in a home defense type of situation. All right, this is a much more unassuming shotgun, right? If there's some evil DA in your area that's trying to peg you for being in a shooting, okay? Do you want them holding up a Benelli M4? Or do you want them holding this up? And you can say, well, it's Grandpa's old hunting shotgun. It was in the closet. I grabbed it and I shot the intruder. It doesn't look as bad. It doesn't look as evil, and it's much more unassuming. Although a 12 gauge running out of this thing doesn't know if it's coming out of this or coming out of a Benelli M4. So there is, I believe, sort of a tact in this gun, in that it's very unassuming and it's just a regular looking type of shotgun. Now, I will say this. This gun has a 24-inch vent rib barrel. This would be an excellent one to put, like, if you wanted to run Nordic Components extension tube on it or something like that. You could certainly up the capacity if that's something you wish to do. This particular gun is my grandpa's gun, and it's been in my family for about 50 years. So it's one that I keep around, and I would not hesitate fielding this gun tomorrow if we were going to go shoot at stuff, birds or whatever, or if I needed to grab it and defend my home, I would not hesitate to use it, because I know it's going to work. It's going to shoot every single time, and it's going to be reliable, and it's going to do the job.
Well, to that point, my father he has 2 Wingmasters 870s. He got them, you know, early 70s, late 60s, somewhere around that time period.
Yeah, that's when Grandpa got this one.
He has been a guide, a professional guide, his entire life. Ran a sporting goods store for 20-something odd years. He's still an avid outdoorsman, running the same shotguns that he bought brand new back in the late 60s and 70s. So there's no telling how many thousands of shot shells have gone through that gun, and it's still kicking.
You know, it's funny. Somewhere I'd have to dig for it, but somewhere I have the receipt for this gun from Kmart from like 1978.
Wow. So interesting.
It is cool, you know. Actually, no, it's not 68. It's like 69. Yeah. So, yeah, about 50 years. Like
you can tell. Actually, the Wingmasters, and I don't know the codes right offhand.
Yeah.
But you can tell by the...
This is an old one, right?
The letter that starts the serial number typically, and that'll designate the year it was manufactured.
I know my grandpa's had it forever, so...
Yeah.
You know, the thing is like, when a gun has been in your family as long as you've been alive, it may as well be 100 years, because it's like, this gun was around before I was ever born. So it's just, I don't know, it's interesting to think about it like that. Like, it's still here out doing his thing.
Absolutely.
All right, so we're going to move on to number 4. Mm-hmm. All right, your choice, dealer's choice.
Glock 19.
Oh, boy.
I'm an enthusiast of a lot of different pistols, but if I could only pick one, it's got to be the Glock 19. You know, you're going to see a recurring theme of reliability, purpose. You know, those are the things that went through my thought. The reason I chose the 19 versus, you know, I've got pistols, I've got M&P shields that I carry, Glock 43s, you know, stuff for concealed carry. But the thing that they lack is the flexibility really for home defense with lighting capabilities. You've got a short rail on the 19, and you can add any kind of light that you need to, so you can use this for home defense. They make every accessory you can think of in the world, included threaded barrels. Now they've got RMR sights. You know, you name it, the sky's the limit. But it also gives you the flexibility of not only a home defense pistol or carrying it around the farm. You know, they make 9mm birdshot or rat shot or snake shot or whatever. It's all the same. But they make that will function in these pistols. as well as they make great concealed carry options. You know, they come standard with a 15 round magazine, and of course, you know, the 19 will accept any Glock, any standard Glock magazine up to 33 round Glock 18 mags. So,
and they work.
If I could only have one, it's going to be these. You know, we've seen all of the gauntlet tests that have been run on Glocks, and you know, in my personal experience as a state law enforcement agent, I carried a Glock, and it's just what I got used to, and they work.
Yep.
It was an easy choice for me on the pistol.
Look, a lot of people tend to kind of either be in the Glock camp or not, but one thing I will say about Glock that I do like, and I feel that this Glock has everything it needs and nothing it doesn't. I'll explain why, and maybe you'll agree with me, maybe you won't, but I like the Nibix coating because it's very corrosion resistant, which, you know, you're out in the farm, it's dirt, rain, sweat, all kind of things. Like, this is totally not going to corrode, which is great. So if you are going to do a Glock 19 in this type of situation, I would say make sure it's an older one with a, you know, with the Tenifer finish, or go with the Nibix like this. So this is a Gen 3 Nibix, which is, to me, is the perfect Glock 19. And then I've got deep UHD Trijicon night sights. I feel like all a Glock needs, keep the standard connectors, standard trigger in it, upgrade the sights, and learn to shoot this well. Because if you can shoot this gun well, you can shoot anything. And I feel that Glocks are nice too, because they do have a relatively closed system, right? Chamber around, give it a little rack on the back, hit it, make sure it's in battery, put it in holster. And there's not as many dust bunnies that are going to find their way into this mechanism like you can with a hammer gun. I like 1911s. I like SIGs. You know, I like CZ75s, you name it. I love hammer guns, but that is one thing. You know, you can get dirt, corrosion, sweat, debris, all those things down into the hammer pivot, and it fills up full of dirt or something. Now the hammer won't shut. This is a relatively sealed system, much less impervious to debris and dirt and sweat.
Well, and speaking of all those things that can happen to it, something we should mention is the simplicity of maintenance of a Glock.
Oh, yeah.
They're super simple. You can take them down in 2 seconds. You can pull the barrel, exactly, barrel and spring right out. You know, you can teach somebody that has never used a Glock, and they can disassemble it in 10 seconds or less and put it right back. So keeping any firearm maintained, but especially one that you're going to carry around and you're going to have it in the dirt and sweat and whatever, just being able to take it down quickly and maintain it on a regular basis and make sure that it's ready for use the next time is critical. And time is money, as they say.
That's right. And when you're farming, you need your stuff to work, and work now. So, all right, number 5 for Mr. Farmer here. What's the next one, Will?
It's going to have to be the bolt gun.
All right.
308.
So, I'm curious, why a bolt gun over a semi? And I know we before the video started, we were sort of kicking around the idea of, okay, like we handled the SCAR, and you were like, ooh, SCAR. So what's nice about a bolt gun over a semi?
Yep. Well, I too have a SCAR Heavy at home. Love it. It's a super gun, but I chose the bolt gun over the SCAR for simplicity. You know, they're again,
always going to work.
It's always going to work. You go back to maintenance as well. You know, the SCAR in specifically, and that kind of got our honorable mention for today's picks, but you know, you go back to the SCAR, and it's a short stroke piston gun, and it's got this big heavy bolt, and yes, it's pretty easy to maintain, but you don't get any simpler than a bolt action rifle. So I had to throw my vote to the bolt action. I chose 308 for a couple of different reasons. One, it's a caliber that's going to outreach the capabilities of the 300 Blackout for sporting purposes. Now, I failed to mention this when we were talking about the 300 Blackout, but in my opinion, it's a 100-yard gun or less. And I've seen and that's for the ethical taking of game, and I would caveat that if using a short barrel. If you're using a 9-inch barrel, I would say 100 yards or less.
That 110 grain Barnes Triple Shock is one of our absolute favorite 300 Blackout bullets. Now, I'm not much of a 300 guy, but Chad has shot, I know, at least one deer with that 110 Barnes, and it absolutely laid it down right in his tracks. He did not have a problem.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
it'll do the job.
The last buck that I took with a 300, to save any graphic detail, let's say the blood trail didn't go far and it wasn't hard to track. So
right.
It had great terminal ballistics.
This is Brandis hunting rifle. This is a
Beautiful.
Kimber Model 84M, and one of the interesting features of this gun primarily is it uses a special intermediate length action. That's kind of like a strength to weight ratio style of action that gets the length as short as it can possibly get. So you get a very short bolt throw for a 308, and it's a controlled feed. I guess you could call it like a Mauser style, but I actually bought this rifle for Brandy. And this is Brandy's hunting rifle, but oddly enough, I've shot more deer with it than Brandy has. And it does great. This is a wonderful rifle. And to sort of back up what you were saying about having the simplicity of a bolt gun, it's very lightweight. This is easy to carry around. This is extremely
lightweight, folks. You can't tell on camera the difference in the weight, but I mean, this is very, very lightweight. I would say, 5-6 pounds max?
With an optic, yeah.
With an optic.
Super lightweight.
With an optic, yeah.
So
it's feather light.
This does gain some points in that, you may not need to fire a lot of rounds or whatever, or you may not be hunting like a big pack of hogs or something or whatever. But this is great if you need to shoot at some game or something and you just want a light gun that you can carry everywhere and it's not a big deal. So, the mobility of the firearm, in this case, being very important, and choosing a prevalence over something like a SCAR just because it's mobile.
Yep, and the electronic hearing protection that's available in today's world, it's easy to protect your hearing if you don't have the budget or don't want to go through the NFA process to get suppressors. I actually hunt with Electronic Hearing Pro all the time, not only just for the hearing protection, but also the increased ability to hear game a lot of times before I can even see them. But one thing that I would also say that I would like as an addition to any 308 bolt gun is I'd like a threaded barrel and I'd like a suppressor. It's gotten to the point where I think I'm a little bit spoiled. I love anything that can be suppressed. It's not Ninja Mall quiet like, a lot of the big media wants to make suppressors out to be.
Just takes the edge off.
It takes the edge off, and it just makes hunting more pleasant.
That's right. Yep. I agree. And to some degree, if you're taking a shorter range shot, even if you're running a supersonic round in a full-length barrel, in a powerful, let's just say hunting caliber like 308 or even a 30-06 or whatever the suppressor, if you're taking a close range shot, the bullet may not have time to crack. All right, if it's a close enough shot, you're not going to get that pow and that really long supersonic crack. So it is being nice to your neighbors because it does soften the report of the gun a bit. And if you're lucky enough to take a short range shot, the bullet may not have time to crack, and so folks will be in bed and not even hear it in the morning or something. So it is being a little more courteous to your neighbors to shoot suppressed too, especially hunting.
Right, and it's not quiet enough to do things that you shouldn't be doing when you're out sporting, for sporting purposes. So that whole fallacy of, they're only using that suppressor so that they're undetectable or whatever, but it does just take that edge off so it doesn't bother your neighbor and scare the heck out of them for whatever reason. If you're trying to shoot a coyote and it's 11 o'clock, midnight, some of the same things with the 300 Blackout, and that's one of the reasons that I chose that one. But, with the 308, and I specifically requested a 308, there's a lot of flexibility in the weight of the bullet. So you can go a much lighter bullet. You can shoot 150 grain bullet, and you don't have to worry about just completely destroying the meat in a deer. And you can go all the way up to the higher grains, 167, and get into those match type loads, and you can really stretch out the distance on a 308. So I wanted a 308 for flexibility in this caliber, and I wanted a bolt gun for reliability and ease of maintenance.
I shot a deer at just under 200 yards with this rifle with the 150 grain Hornady Superformance, and it did just fine. And this gun's 0 for 150s, and they work great. And I have not had a deer run away from this gun yet. I think I've killed about 4 deer with this one between me and one other person. All right, so number 6 is a wild card here on our top 5 video. And, every 5 Guns video has a wild card. So what's your wild card pick, Will?
My pick is going to be the M1 carbine. Now, this is a U.S. postal meter, and the reason I like the M1, I actually own an M2, which is the full auto version. I've got a transferable M2 carbine, and they're just extremely fun to shoot. If you've got, new shooters that want to go out and just have a blast, no pun intended, the M carbine is so lightweight. The 30 caliber round, it carries sufficient, in ballistics if you didn't need to use it for a home defense weapon or even target shooting. I mean, it's just a heck of a lot of fun. So I really picked the M1 carbine for the fun factor.
Yep. And I would like to say something in terms of the ballistics of the 30 carbine. A lot of people say, oh, well, it's not a good long-range cartridge. That wasn't really the intent, right? These things were meant to kind of bridge the gap between a handgun and a rifle, okay? And early versions of these were actually issued in World War II with these like crazy scabbards. Like you would literally wear the gun on your side like a pistol and be able to have it, a long-range pistol. So this really is one of the first like personal defense weapons in terms of its specific use that was ever developed. And the cool thing about it is in a room-to-room fight. Okay, let's say that we're clearing a building in a military environment or whatever the case. It's home defense and, you both grab a gun. All right, if I take this gun and load 55 grain ball in it, I take this gun and load full power 110 grain ball in it, these guns' power level is toe-to-toe at close range. So I may not have the speed and like the armor defeating capabilities of the light and fast round, but foot-pounds of energy-wise, they're both generating roughly the same power at close range.
Yeah.
Now, the AR wins because it carries better energy at longer range, and obviously it's a flatter shooting gun and has more velocity. But toe-to-toe at close range, the guns are pretty well matched.
Well, and if you put it into perspective of very well-known firearms, what was the biggest thing back in the early 70s? Dirty Harry, the .44 Magnum. Well, guess what? M1 carbine carries 900 foot-pounds of energy, which is very equivalent to the .44 Magnum.
Right.
And you don't have the recoil, and it's easier to teach somebody how to shoot and be accurate.
It just doesn't carry the long-range capabilities that people associate with a rifle, and I believe that's where the M1 carbine got a bad rap, was that people were thinking, well, it's a rifle, it should shoot 500 yards. It's not what it's meant to do. I mean, I've shot the M1 carbine out to 200 yards, and I would not feel unarmed at that distance, but I feel like it's 100 yards and in, really 50 yards and in, because at 50 yards and in, this rifle's absolutely devastating. I mean, it'll just absolutely get the job done. And I feel, too, that with some of the defensive loads that you can get for the 30 carbine now, that these things actually fall into the potential area of being a good little close-in hunting rifle, too.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that we would be amiss if we failed to mention the historical aspect and the nostalgia. They're just neat. So during World War II, many manufacturers, Rockola, they were a jukebox manufacturer. General Motors and Inland, you've got IBM, International Business Machine, Quality Hardware, all of these different manufacturers that were coming in from different industries to pull together to keep freedom alive and to fight the war around the world. And
to support the war effort.
Absolutely. And, they were continued to be used in the Korean War and in Vietnam. And a lot of them are in use today in the civilian sector.
It is most certainly a proven gun. Excellent choice. Excellent choice. All right. So this has been the top 5 farmer guns. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. And I would definitely like to take a moment to thank Mr. Beatty for coming down, hanging out with us here today. And you guys have got to go over there and get your hands on some of his beef because you're going to love it. Check him out. He is a great dude. And tell them how they can follow you on social media and how to buy your beef if they want to buy some food from you.
So if you want to support us, you can follow us on Instagram at Bear Creek Cattle Company. We're also to be found on Facebook. I do have a link in the description on our Instagram page that will carry you to Shop HQ, and we have an online store, or you can go directly to shophq.com and search for Bear Creek Cattle Company. We ship nationwide.
Heck yeah. Well, I know one thing. This man's steaks are to die for, so you owe it to yourself to try them. I think you're going to like them. Guys, thanks so much for watching today's video. We hope you enjoyed it. Many more on the way, and we will have Will down to do some gun videos with us as soon as we can get some decent weather, because we've been getting rained on so much, I'm starting to wonder if I'm living in the rainforest out here. But once we get some nice weather and we can get our schedules together, we're gonna take that M2 carbine of his out and do a video with it. That'll be fun. So, guys, thanks so much for watching. Will, thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Eric.
All right, pal. And I want to take a moment to thank all of our Patreon supporters, those of you who purchase man cans over on the website, as well as t-shirts over on Ballistic Ink. Thank you so much for supporting the channel and seeing value in what we do. We'll see you next time. Many more on the way.